Hey everybody, you're listening to the BTW Media Podcast, the show that explores the stories, innovations, and insights for people who love technology and the internet. Hi, I'm Faye. In this episode of BTW Media Podcast, we sit down with Philip Maguire, CEO of Inakalum, to explore how his company's platform NetworkUX is redefining mobile infrastructure planning and urban connectivity. Maguire brings over 4 decades of telecom experience to the table with a portfolio that includes global government contracts and patented innovations. Hi, Philip. It's great to meet you. I've been reading about Inakalum's innovative approach to solving problems like mobile coverage with NetworkUX, and I have to say it sounds like a game changer for improving connectivity in urban areas. It's exciting to see how your solution uses real-world data to make better decisions for mobile infrastructure. I'm looking forward to learning more about how this project be implemented, especially in the UK. So could you give us a short self-introduction?
Sure. Philip Maguire, I'm the CEO of Inakalum. I've been working in telecom since I left school back in 1981. That's 44 years. Qualified as a technician first and then went off to college, did engineering, and then I set up my own company for writing telecom software in 1995. That's 30 years this year. And our latest offering is NetworkUX, which is a mobile coverage and capacity surveying solution. So we find where the not spots are, whether they're either signal strength problems or capacity problems where there's congestion on the network. We also have some core products that we've developed since 1995, and my patented software is in every American embassy in the world, over 750 sites, and that's still a live contract. We've been supplying the State Department for over 20 years, so telecoms is sort of in my DNA.
Wow, that's fascinating. And here I prepare you 4 questions. The first one is, NetworkUX is designated to bridge the gap between mobile not spot and the necessary infrastructure. Could you explain some of common challenges faced by mobile operators in urban areas and how NetworkUX specifically addresses these challenges?
Sure. So NetworkUX is a surveying platform, so we find the problems. And obviously with every problem, the first step is to find out what exactly is the problem. And very often the problems are either coverage problems where there's no signal, the signal strength is poor, but more often in the UK they're capacity problems where the signal strength is okay, but there's too many people using the network and there's congestion. So those problems are harder to find, and we do that by transferring files up to a server and reading them back and calculating the upload and download speeds. And it's very time of day dependent. So if it's a busy urban area with high footfall, we need to survey over all 24 hours of the day and find out when the congestion is happening, so the network may be fine at 9 o'clock in the morning, but 3 o'clock in the afternoon there'll be huge congestion problems. And basically you could have 3 or 4 bars on your phone, you get that spinning wheel when you try to use apps or Google Maps or whatever you're trying to do, and your phone won't work. So yeah, and then we also do street asset surveying. So when we survey an area and we find out where the problem areas are, we can then go out and do street asset survey and find out where the candidate street assets are for putting in mobile infrastructure to solve the problems, whether they're small cells or maybe a greenfield site where they want to put a pole up or a mast or something like that. So we can survey those areas as well. So that's the step towards first find the problem, and then the next step is how do we solve the problem, and we work with the councils and the mobile operators and the infrastructure providers, everybody, and say, look, here's possible ways of solving the problem, hand it back to them, and then obviously when they solve the problem then we can survey again. So look, this used to be a poor area, now it's a good area. So your intervention has worked.
As we all know, one of the NetworkUX key features is mapping of street assets such as lighting, columns, and bus stop for mobile infrastructure. So my question is that how do you work with local councils and infrastructure providers to assess the accessibility of these assets?
First of all, we send somebody out on our platform. It's a person goes out with a smartphone app and they photograph the assets, and then AI categorizes and say that's a street lamp column, and we take more than one photograph so we can let the head of the street lamp and the centre and the base of it to see, and also then the environment around it. So if a street lamp is suitable for putting a small cell in it, for example, there may not be no parking at it, which means that if an operator wants to put a small cell in it, they'd have to close the street, and that's a big problem. That's a big issue because that takes planning applications to close the street and delays the process. So if it has a parking spot, they can bring a cherry picker in, 2 cones out, put the cherry picker up and put the small cell in and work on it during the day. And if they have to come back and do maintenance on it, the same thing. So maintenance is obviously another concern after. If you close the street to put a small cell in, then you have to go back and upgrade it. You have to close the street again. So the environment in it, and obviously the council don't want you putting street assets on heritage assets, or if they're part of a pretty area, they don't want you putting up a mast in the middle of it. So you have to factor all these things in, and the way to do do it is we go survey the area and show them what's there exactly, and they can make informed decisions without leaving their desk, and then move towards the operators and say, look, here's pre-qualified street assets, take your pick, put in your equipment, fix the problem, and everybody's happy.
That makes sense. And your platform uses real-world signal and usage data to identify mobile coverage gaps. Could you share an example of how this data has been used to improve network performance in the specific area of the UK?
Yeah, so Westminster, for example, that was the first survey we did back a couple of years ago. They use our data almost every day for presentations, and there are a lot of moving parts in fixing the problem. So you have the network operators, you have infrastructure providers, you have the council internal teams, the planners, all very important. And the planners, so in Westminster, they have 100% coverage on 4G and 98% coverage on 5G. So coverage is not a problem, but capacity is a huge problem. But the planners weren't aware that there were capacity problems and the scale of the problems. And also the rooftop masts, over the next 2 years, I think something like 20% of those have NTQs on them, which is a notice to quit, which means the landlords are taking the masts off when the lease is up. And that means that you're going to lose 20% of your capacity. So the planners weren't aware that while there are capacity problems today, in 2 years they're going to be even worse. And plus you have a sort of probably about a 10% every year mobile traffic is growing. So that's another 20% you're going to lose. So to stand still and deliver what is already a poor service in many areas, it's going to get worse. So then when the planners saw this, they went, okay, we weren't aware that this was a problem of this scale. They changed their thinking about how they look at applications for putting in mobile infrastructure and look at them more favourably. So that's probably the biggest positive intervention that changed how the planners view applications and make it easier for infrastructure providers and operators to put in equipment to solve the problems.
So the last small question for you is that were there any interesting challenges encountered during the promotion process in the UK?
Shows like Connected North are great. Everybody comes there, and you just have to be on the ground. You have to build your network and all that. I'm doing that for many years here in the UK. You start from scratch, you get an introduction, you meet people. We were very lucky early on that we met Westminster City Council and Dave Wilkins there, who pretty much we designed the capacity testing of our product, designed about what David needed us to show him the data and all that. And from that, we build out and go to other councils, say, look, we work with Westminster City Council, this is what we've done, here's our data. Online, LinkedIn is really good for promotion, trade shows, and then industry groups. We're part of Tech UK, so we go to a lot of presentations and seminars there, and we meet people at them, and just general business networking. Networking is really, really important, and meeting people.
Definitely nowadays everyone is using medias.
Yeah, and the most important thing about networking is that when you meet people and you do business with them, that you make sure they're happy. And very often companies are focused solely on the bottom line, how much money can I make out of this? That's not how you keep customers happy. What you do is you price your offering so that you can make money, but you make sure that they get what they want out of it. And if it costs you a little bit more than you thought, you just have to take that. You have to make sure that they're happy. That's not a business thing, that's a personal thing. I don't want anybody saying, oh, I paid you for this and you didn't deliver it. I want them saying, you paid for this and you delivered this plus this, which I didn't pay for, but it's great to get it, a little bit extra. I always give them a little bit extra and make sure that you're always available and you answer their questions, you answer emails, and so all of that amounts to when somebody meets some of our customers and they say, you've been dealing with Inakalum, is it good? And they'll say, yes, fantastic. It's really easy to deal with, great product. Give me the data and always answer my question and add features to the products if we ask for features.
That's the wisdom of you.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights today. I'm looking forward to seeing how your work continues to impact the industry. And I hope we can keep in touch in the future. And thanks again for your time.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for another episode